A lot of people have been leaving comments under my videos saying that Christians in China are persecuted or suppressed. I want to take a moment to clear that up.
Come on, have some faith on American-made cars. They can compete with Chinese EV with the help of 247.5% tariff. They can surely compete. They don't need the help of national security. It's an insult. This is so ironic. The word of the year chosen by Oxford University Press is rage bait. China is rage baiting UK. Originally, it would be nice to have a big embassy. China is a big country, a lot of population. But then, when the plane is denied by UK for the reason of spying, I think that China persists on building the same size embassy as the original plan is just rage baiting. To see the performance of UK, why would you suspect China spying on you? Name one thing that China needs to spy from UK. Maybe your food that we don't know?
This is going to be the official first part of our new series about capitalist propaganda and how we may have been misled about China. I want to be clear that this is so incredibly nuanced. I'm going to source credible numbers from verified American sources that have access to that back-end information, and I'm going to be citing them. For that reason, we're speaking in averages. Real estate in Shanghai or New York City is not going to be anywhere near as affordable as real estate in Kansas, right? We're taking all of this in context. The purpose of this is to paint a high-level, broad picture for you guys, because once we get down to the bottom of it and you start seeing how these numbers line up, you're going to realize that a couple $1,000s here and there is not going to be enough to save our American asses. Perhaps the most important thing that we need to understand before we jump into numbers is the cultural differences between Americans and Chinese people, because in America, we have a very individualistic meritocracy where we believe it's okay to extort people if we are the Michael Jordan of capitalism, which I've heard before. It's so fucking stupid. And over in China, they care about community and family. I will remind my whataboutism American viewers that this is a TikTok video and not a PhD level dissertation. So if that's what you're looking for, please go look elsewhere. Comment section of the last video had a lot of great exchanges, including that of Chinese people and people who live in China, who are from America. All of that is welcome here. I would love to hear it. I'm here to learn from you guys too. Propaganda loves to feed us this narrative about how much more rich we are than the people of China. So let's take a look. According to Forbes magazine, in 2021, which was the last year that Beijing National Bureau of Statistics released the data, we can look at the average salary of a Chinese worker versus an American worker. It's worth noting that in this scenario, the average American worker is making 3.5 times their Chinese counterpart, which is already a far reduction over the 6.5 times from the 10 years prior to that. In order to understand the context of their local domestic buying power with their currency, we're going to look at the PPP, the purchase power parity. This gets lost in the conversation every time, and it's so important because our currencies inherently hold different values domestically. The PPP in China is 2.04 times the nominal value, which means that on average, Chinese consumers get about twice the purchasing power domestically compared to the nominal exchange rate. In other words, in China, the yuan has more domestic spending power than the US dollar has within America. Yikes. Yahoo Finance gives us the average price per meter in China versus America, and below that I'll go ahead and translate that to square feet. In China, they have smaller homes, and they often live multi-generationally. So this is a good point for me to sort of pause on and explain one of those things that's actually better in America, at least in my opinion. I like my space, personally. Who knows, if I was raised in China, maybe I'd feel differently. They average 646 square foot per dwelling, and the real estate they hold there, city, it's almost always going to be a condo. So that's basically a condo is what we're describing. In America, the average home size is 2,164 square feet, which is a single family residential detached home, which is the standard in America. I went ahead and did that math for us. I'm going to put these numbers up here. And it's worth noting that the average American home price based on these numbers is 3.64 times higher than the average Chinese home, which actually lines up perfectly with that income disparity that we saw originally, right? So we make 3.5 times more than they do, but we're also paying 3.6 times more for our housing. So that seems consistent. In talking about upfront costs, this is actually where America is the clear winner in terms of being able to get into housing. It's way more affordable to get into housing in America. You can get into a house in America for as little as 0% down depending on the loan program. I'm absolutely game to talk more about financing in America and how this all works, but that's going to have to be another video. China recently reduced their down payment amount from 30% to 15% for first-time home buyers. So that is what we're going to use as our standardized measurement for calculating everything. So I did the math for us, and those numbers are up here for you. I want to pause on this for just a second and talk about the cultural differences between the way we are in America versus how they are in China. Because in China, it used to be that you would have to put 30% down. And in that case, it was literally impossible for young people to buy houses, in which case they would dip into the 6 wallets philosophy, which in China essentially states that when purchasing property, you're going to get help from your parents, grandparents, and if you're partnered, your partner's parents and your partner's grandparents. This is because real estate in China is used as a generational store of wealth, and it did come with the expectation that the parent would be taken care of by the child in old age. They also hate credit, and they don't borrow nearly as much as we do. They are not anywhere near as over-leveraged as we are. According to CNBC a couple of months ago, the current residential mortgage rates in China are at 3.5%. So we're going to use that to calculate a 30-year mortgage with the balance of the loan after the 15% is put down. That's going to be up here. So their monthly mortgage payment is going to be $531.03 per month, and represented as a percentage of their income, that's going to occupy 39.5% of their overall income. If you're a homeowner in America and you feel like getting pissed off, go ahead and look at your amortization statement. Just as an aside, the American mortgage. The American mortgage, after the down payment, at the current rate, which this put in automatically at 5.98% over 30 years, factoring in PMI, insurance, and taxes, assuming none of that goes up, that monthly payment is $3,169.29, which occupies 65.44% of an American worker's salary. Let that sink in. Anyone still watching at this point, let me just say, I love you. Thank you for your attention span. This shit it's dense. But we're going to talk next about utilities, because this part is one that's really going to piss Americans off as it relates to American capitalism versus the hybrid model they have in China. Because if we weren't being extorted and constantly bled dry for every fucking penny we have, we could also enjoy comparable utility payments to those in China, which per month, they pay on average $77.27 a month for high-speed internet, cell phone, water, and electric. This is what happens when corporations don't own public utilities. The average American spends $611 on utilities between all the services that I just listed in China, plus the additional streaming services and stuff that we pay for here in America. Factoring that into our monthly costs, in China, they're paying on average $608.30 a month for all of their housing and utilities, which represents 45% of their income. And in America, drum roll please, we are spending $3,780.29 on average per month for everything I just listed, and that represents 78.06% of our monthly income. So let's talk about what it costs once your mortgage is paid off. What are we paying in America versus what they're paying in China per month after we pay our mortgages off? In China, they pay nothing except for utilities. So that's going to be a whopping $77.27. In America, the sweet freedom of that ownership is still going to cost you $1,027.67 a month, and that's assuming that your taxes don't go up, which they will, and your insurance won't go up, which it will. By the time you and your Chinese counterpart finish paying off your mortgages, your Chinese counterpart will have paid 61.6% of their principal balance and interest, which represents a little under $73,000. You, as an American, due to our predatory lending policies, you're going to pay 115% of the principal balance, just under $500,000, just because they gave you the loan. After 70 years, our Chinese counterpart will have spent just under $212,000, whereas the average American will have spent over $1.4 million. And for those of you who are saying that, well, that's a lease, it's not ownership, I'm going to challenge you. Are you going to spend $1.2 million to claim ownership on land that requires an annual subscription fee of your taxes? And if yes, stay tuned for the next one, because we're going to dive into that.
Hassan Piker could literally not do what he does in America in China. He would not be allowed to get on...
Except that Hassan Piker did do what he does in America in China. Practically every day he went on Twitch and said whatever he wanted to say in China. You're talking about lying Republicans who are spreading misinformation for their political goals. That's who can't go live on social media in China. And I'm speaking as the first American who was allowed to live stream on Red Note this year. I've been doing Chinese social media full time for 2 years. And it's illegal in China to spread misinformation on social media. It's their country, it's their rules, that's what they decided. I know you love spreading misinformation like the lie you told in your video. I mean, I know it was out of ignorance, but it's your right as an American to be ignorant and spread misinformation on social media. You said that in China, they only have one political party. They have 9 political parties, way more than the United States has, but they practice something called democratic centralism. Okay, this is going to blow your mind if you're an American and you don't know about China or Marxism. In the United States, we view democracy as consent for what the government is going to do to you. And we say, oh, it's not authoritarian because you guys voted and decided that abortion was going to be illegal. So it's okay for a woman to die in a hospital parking lot because she can't access health care, can get an abortion that she needs. In China, they view democracy not as consent to mask authoritarianism like what we do here, but they view it as a useful and necessary tool to gather information from everybody who's going to be involved and affected by policy. So they have this variety of political parties come together and inform the leading party, the Communist Party of China, and tell them how their policies are going to affect different parts of society that might be left out of the decision-making process otherwise. And the thing that you're not being told is that the Communist Party of China is one of the biggest political parties in the world with over 100 million members now. That's almost a third of the US population who had to apply, get vetted, study economics, study politics, study Chinese history, and be admitted to this political party. They had to prove that they understood how politics works before they could work in politics. Lauren Boebert's not getting far in that system. So democratic centralism is when all of these people who are on the same team come together and have disagreements on different policies. They do democracy in their government. They vote on these things. But the people who disagree go along with the decision wholeheartedly. Unlike in the United States, like when Obamacare was passed, all the Republicans dug their heels in and tried to sabotage it at every turn so that it couldn't look like it was working. Versus in China, when a policy doesn't go well, the people who disagreed with the policy originally can say, look, we tried our best here. Let's all be rational, and we didn't meet our goals. Let's try something else now. That's why they get stuff done in China, by the way. Also because they have 4 Democratic parties in China, but no right-wing Republican parties. And then Americans like you have become obsessed with criticizing your own government on social media, even though that doesn't seem to do anything to change it, all because you hate what the right-wing Republicans are doing in your government. Then you project that obsession with criticizing the government onto China, who has 0 right-wing Republican parties. They fought very hard to eliminate right-wing Republican parties who spread lies for the rich. Then you're always asking people who go to China, why aren't you criticizing the Chinese government? Literally, you guys, I can't think of a criticism. I'm being 100% sincere here. I spent 4 months this year in China. I went to 15 cities. I'm about to make my 4th trip there in a few days. And I'm so inspired by that country, you guys. Like, it's not easy governing a country that's 4 times the size of the United States. Like, I'm tearing up a little bit. Like, they really care about their people there. It's a beautiful place. And you're just gonna say, like, I'm being paid by the government, which I'm not. I get paid by private companies, brands endorse me, whatever. I go to great lengths to make sure of that, by the way, so I can stay unbiased. And, you know, like, maybe I could say the government could try to focus on getting more young leadership involved and more women in leadership positions. But even then, it feels weird. It's not my business. We're always told it's our business to tell everybody how they should run their country the democratic American way. And it just never works out when we try to export our model. So, you know what? I have no criticisms of the Chinese government. That's for Chinese people to have those conversations. I trust them. They've come a long way. When you were saying that his trip was highly curated, implying that he was like colluding with the Chinese government, bitch, I planned his trip. I met his producer at a party and they were like, yeah, we're gonna send our streamer guy to China. And I just offered to help without even knowing that it was Hassan. And I made like a Google Doc of all the cities I've been to, all the things he could try, and sent it to them for free and was just like, yeah, please have a good time. Meet people, show the world what this place is really like. So you're paranoid and very ignorant, that's all.
Like crazy levels of nationalist propaganda. America is one of the more conservative and one of the more misogynistic countries when you look at the developed world. Our president is literally a rapist. Like, there's no East Asian country that has anything close to this. The femicide rate in America is literally hundreds of times higher than in any East Asian country. Lifetime surveyed domestic violence rates are higher in America than any East Asian country. Abortion is legal in every East Asian country. Not to mention, Asian American women are more conservative than Asian American men. So if anything, we're not conservative enough. So get your white savior narrative out of here.
A lot of people have been leaving comments under my videos saying that Christians in China are persecuted or suppressed. I want to take a moment to clear that up. These are rumors. The truth is, churches and Christians in China are doing just fine. Today I'm visiting the Shikai Church in Tianjin, which is a beautiful and historic landmark that has been standing here for over a century now. This church, also known as St. Joseph Church, was built in 1916 during the late Qing dynasty and originally constructed by French missionaries. The church played a significant role in the local Christian community for decades. Over the years, it has been a place for worship, peace, and community, welcoming both locals and foreigners alike. I'm not Christian, but I have a lot of Christian friends. They are both foreigners and local Chinese. They never told me about persecutions about Christians in China, and also there are churches everywhere in China, like even in my grandparents' hometown, which is located in the very small village in mid part of China. That's in middle of nowhere, and there's a church there. So let's not be misled by false information of Western media. Churches like Shikai continue to serve their communities in peace and harmony. There's no sign of persecution of churches and Christians in China. I'm Kelly Tan. Talk to you later.
I really feel bad for Linda Sun. I can't say I know a lot about her. I know she was born in the United States, and part of the reason she eventually go to public service is she was helping her parents who didn't speak much English to fit in. So I don't think she speak much Chinese from the background. But anyway, so she's accused of being a Chinese spy. My personal view is that she's the least likely candidate to be a Chinese spy. Like, I'm 100% like more likely than her, because she was educated in the United States. So there's no way that she got the kind of ideology that Chinese government tried to instill on her. Me, on the other hand, grew up in China, and I was educated on the Chinese system for 20 years. Okay, so if Chinese government need a spy, who do you think is more likely to be convinced to be a Chinese spy for Chinese government? Me or her? It's that obvious. But anyway, I don't think a lot of people will believe once she's charged as spy, you will believe she's a spy. If one day I'm charged as a spy, you will believe I'm a spy. I didn't read the play of Crucible by Arthur Miller, but I think that the message is like that, right? Maybe I should read it. He's not wrong here, but can you guys really trust him? After all, he's a Chinese. Three Kingdom period. China was not in existence. Really? What did you hear the Three Kingdoms from? Chinese history, right? Three Kingdom period within Chinese history. So that's China. China break into three parts. These three parts is still China. Nobody can claim that. Only China can claim those three parts. In fact, the famous starting line of Three Kingdoms story is China's story is like this. When it united for a long time, it will break into parts. When it breaks into parts for a long time, it will reunite it. So, you are pretty much witness history right now of two kingdoms of China. People's Republic of China in mainland, Republic of China in Taiwan. These two kingdoms are born to unite it. Because history told us we can unite three. Of course we can unite two. U.S. Commission wants more Mandarin language courses as Congress looks to curb Beijing's sway. That's a great initiative. We need to know more about each other. I have an idea. How about hire some certified language teacher from China, and they can live in the United States. They can pretty much have a school set up inside your university and teach you Chinese language, Chinese culture. And how about their salary is being paid by the Chinese side? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Oh, we tried. It's called Confucius Institute, and you closed every one of them. This got to be one of the funniest headlines I have read recently. Who said Chinese doesn't have a sense of humor? But one of the reasons it's so ridiculous is that reincarnation is not even real, people. I figured that out last life when I was a chicken.